Nonprofit professionals, have you thought about using gift cards? They're especially helpful this time of year. Think holiday gifts for the whole team, year end bonuses, and even direct support to families in need around the holidays. Charity Charge has a free gift card program just for nonprofits with no sign-up fees or ordering minimums. Text or email a digital card for face value, no extra cost, or ship a physical card if you prefer. Let our team support your year-end projects and save money on your gifting. Visit charitycharge.com to learn more and beat the holiday rush. Now, on to the episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello, and everyone, welcome to this episode of the Charity Charge Show. I guess maybe I'm a little rusty. I've been on a paternity leave. My wife and I welcomed our first son, Henry, to the world on August 19th, and it has been obviously a complete blessing. One of the things that I had to put aside the past couple of months has been the Charity Charge Show, and all the prior episodes, I think we've put out the last 46, have been by Grayson Harris, but I am excited to be back in the seat today, hosting the Charity Charge Show, having on David Gottfried, who is the founder of the US Green Building Council, the World Green Building Council, and he is also the founder and CEO of Regen 360. David, thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Charity Charge Show today.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm happy to be here. Glad you're back to do this with me and like to honor Henry.
Thank you very much. I want to start this episode by sharing. I know we chatted a couple weeks ago, but I want to share with the audience a personal anecdote how I really felt connected to you and just appreciative of everything that you've done. When I was graduating college in 2008, a couple of years prior to that, my father had passed away, and I really felt confused and lost. Probably how many perhaps a lot of kids feel when they're about to graduate college and what are they going to do with their lives? And I would have lunch with my and hang out with my friends from WashU, and everyone was bragging about their fancy investment banking job and how much money they were going to make, when they graduated from WashU. And I really felt losing my father at age 53 that there had to be more to having a career and a life than just making money. So one day I got out of class at WashU, a senior year, a spring semester, and there was this new building that was under construction, which is the Danforth Center. And I see this big banner get rolled out on the top, kind of hanging down, a big tarp banner. And it said, "This building to be LEED certified." And I thought, what the heck is LEED? So this is 2008. I went back, I got on Wikipedia, right? I didn't pull up ChatGPT. We didn't have that. And I started reading about the US Green Building Council. I started reading about LEED certification. At this time, I had seen An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore, and I was starting to just immerse myself in ways that, we could create a sustainable and a better future. And so seeing that, I thought, wow, this is maybe something that I want to have a career in. So I'm going to fast forward through this anecdote, but I ended up getting LEED accredited, okay, and passed that exam, moved to Austin, and kind of through the things that I learned through LEED and that interest that I had and that passion for the environment and sustainability. When I first moved to Austin, my first job was with the University of Texas at their clean energy incubator. And I want to thank you because it was such a cool, first job for me out of college. And it was something that I had a lot of passion from. And it really inspired me to see that there was a different way to think about the world. So thank you so much for founding the US Green Building Council, because you've done a lot more than just help create sustainable building practices and everything that's come from that. But I think you've inspired a whole host of people to think differently about the world.
Thank you, Stephen. I love that story when you told it to me we first met. And honestly, it gave me chills because and that's for a lot of us, these listeners too. We don't know the impact of what we do. We don't know who's watching, who's listening. I see myself as a gardener and I throw seeds all over the world. Sometimes I come back and water them. Maybe today I'm watering that seed with you and your audience. And sometimes I sit on the park bench in the forest, the park of those trees that grew and the flowers out of those seeds. And I'm just quiet and I watch and I see your good work and your passion, like what you're doing with your company and your credit card. And that inspires me and that gives me hope.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. David, what I was hoping to start this episode on, as we focus on about you and the US Green Building Council and World Green Building Council, and all the other endeavors that you've taken on is, I got your book and I know that there's a lot of stats and figures and things, and we can talk a little bit about that. But one of the things that I think is so amazing about what you were able to do is have an idea and some passion and some interest. And then you look at now the impact and the global nature of what you started back in 1993. And I imagine that a lot of the organizations that we work with are, and then the people listening to this are executive directors and founders of nonprofits in their community. And we always say, and I truly believe it, there is no small nonprofit, there is no tiny nonprofit, because no organization, regardless of their revenue size, is small to the people they're serving, right? I do believe, however, that if nonprofit leaders can learn the skills and have the vision and the wherewithal and be able to pull together their team, that can help their organization and they can make more and more impact. So I'm curious from your perspective, right? Taking us back to 1993, what were some of the breakthrough moments if you think about it as a handful of key points to get to where you are? What were some of the seminal things to initially get this organization off the ground?
Great question, Stephen. And first, I want to say thank you to those listening, the founder, executive directors of these nonprofits. My heart's with you, especially the founders, because that's hard. You're day one. And day one, there's no brochure, no website, no budget, maybe nobody else. And there's you with your vision, your passion, your dreams, your hope. And that's really the core of these nonprofits. There's a soul there, a
Hmm.
founding soul, and then you bring in other souls, hopefully, because you can't go alone. And that's what Al Gore had a quote in his film, that African quote, to change things, you got to go together. But there's so many times, and we have case studies on the US Green Building Council. And I didn't do it myself. I had some co-founders who are still involved today. And, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of others have volunteered now. And the World GBC has green building councils in 85 countries now. We've touched more than $1 trillion. But if we'll go through the arc, the trajectory. The beginning, you're alone. And hopefully you bring in others who are passionate, like Stephen here. You know, he looked at that Danforth building, saw a lead sign. He was questioning his dad passed. He was thinking about a bigger life. I call it a life of passion, purpose, and legacy and mission. PPM, more than dollars and cents. There's no soul in dollars. There's soul in people and helping and building things that can change and transform and regenerate. But it starts somewhere, and people don't always honor that person. Sometimes they're not even around if the organization's been around longer. But as that founder or the executive director, when it's early, you're broke. You're rich in passion, vision, and mission, and you're broke. You might be broke in money, spirit, or others standing with you. You're starting to climb the huge mountain, and you don't have a base camp. You don't have the gear. It's hailstorming on your head, and you're just starting. You're looking up, or maybe you're midway and you look down, and it's far up and far down, and you can't let go of your rope because you'll die. But you think
Fall
you're
into
going
the
to die. And
crevasse.
what's that?
Did you fall into the crevasse?
Yeah. So who's with you? Who's got your rope? Who is pulling you up? Who will catch you when you fall? Who can hit that next, what do you call it, piton into the crack for you? Can the helicopter come pick you up and the others keep climbing? Because the vision is to get to the top of the mountain. The vision might be the climb. It might be the impact of it. It isn't you. It isn't your name. It isn't you, the founder. You need to let that go. It's the vision. And if others can take the baton and move it further, either up or horizontal, invite them. It doesn't matter if they're 18 as an intern or other elders, but bring them in. If you share the mission statement, their eyes sparkle. They're in. And
But this,
what can
David, this
they contribute?
right. This started in 1993, right?
Yeah.
So, what were the first couple of years like? And everything that you just said, I'm with you. right? But how did you figure that out? What kind of trials and tribulations, or did you
Yeah.
have prior experience that you were able to lean on?
I started the story really started in '91. I started ASTM's subcommittee on green building to do a standard, and it was kind of a pain. It was a consensus standard. I like consensus, but we had Tobacco Institute and other dark side lobbying groups that wanted to have smoking in buildings. And it was like, no way. And I yanked it out of there, and we started our own NGO, 501. It was a C6 at first, and then we moved it over to a C3. But the first step was mid-April '93. I got 60 leaders in a room in DC at the AIA headquarters. I would go to the American Institute of Architect conferences. They had an expo. I'd hit up every larger firm at the expo for 2, 3 days and bug them. And then I would email them, call them. And success was they either agreed to come to the founding meeting in DC, or they told me, stop calling me. You're driving me nuts. Or as my dad would say, call me when you have a pot to piss in. And I got 60 people there and some great firms. And our founding chairman, Rick Fedrizzi, was at United Technologies Carrier, the biggest mechanical firm in the world. And we had Herman Miller there, Armstrong, US Gypsum, PG&E, SDG&E, utility, bigger architect firms, engineering firms, and nonprofits. Nonprofits were so important, other NGOs, because they gave us credibility. Because if I recruited manufacturers, they say, oh, they gave you a lot of money, they're buying you off. But there was Rocky Mountain Institute, Bill Browning, there was NRDC, Rob Watson, really great NGOs standing with us, with the manufacturers. So that coalition of the big and
Mhm.
the small, and everyone, even if you paid higher dues and you're big, you only got one vote. So that was smart. So out of that, we raised some seed money, maybe 125,000, and created the little board, one seat for each voice of our orchestra in the building industry, 13 sectors. It's very important that everyone got a voice. Critical things were that, the launch, but then what do you do? We started a conference and we had no money, big vision. We partnered then with the government, with the National Institute of Standards and Technology, did 2 conferences with us. And they printed the proceedings, which gave us credibility. We had big keynotes then who weren't big then because this is 30 plus years ago, was Bill McDonough and Paul Hawken. We went on the journey and kept building the board, the membership. The big growth came when we came out with the pilot for the LEED green building rating system. And that's what even got to you, Stephen, on that building. And we got money from the Department of Energy to fund about $800,000, the early LEED pilot and the LEED reference guide. And then that got out to the world. And in the beginning, we were the passionate visionaries. Maybe when LEED came out, we moved one more step to leaders. Now we're at late mainstream. We're so big 30 plus years later. But getting the right people at the table, what seats are you filling? And then for the founder, learning when to be quiet, pass the baton, even fire yourself, which I did. I stopped being CEO. I'm a good inventor, early visionary. And then I sat on the board for 15 years as vice chairman. I didn't run it because I'm not a real builder. Rick Fedrizzi was our builder. I'm still there as now I went from the parent to the grandparent. I'm still sitting on that park bench watching. I'll go to Greenbelt in 3 weeks and celebrate in Los Angeles with the thousands of others. But LEED really kicked us off. And then what are the economics of LEED? And how do you get LEED into the building codes? How do you create a tax credit around it? The dollars and cents of this. It's not about hugging trees. It's about economics and return on investment. It's about value and it's about risk.
I'd like to go a little bit deeper onto some of what you were just talking about there, which is so many times, especially when you see with what you did, um, it could be the iPhone, maybe it could be even the invention of the automobile, but any of these successful companies, products, nonprofits, timing is such a critical role. not being too early, not being too late. What was it about what was happening in the 90s that made this the right timing?
We didn't start at the right time. We were too early. So if
Mm.
you look at our growth curve, it's flat for quite a few years. And then when LEED came out, it's the hockey stick, that innovation curve, and LEED was right there. So we were a bit early. Early was good in a way because we were first in commercial green building. There was a green homes rating system where you came from Austin, was very early
Yes.
into.
Now you're reminding yes. Wow. I had
You were
forgotten about that.
first almost in green
Yeah.
homes.
You're taking
It
me
came
back
out
because
of
I was a
plenty.
volunteer with the Central. Thank you. This is your speak, but yeah, I
Yeah,
was a volunteer with the
set
USGBC Central Texas, and I learned from that to Austin, and then we have probably the CMPBS, Center for
yeah,
Maximum Potential Building
buildings.
Systems.
Yeah,
Pliny and Gale helped
yeah.
Austin create that, right?
They were killer, and they're still around pushing, but they were one of the first green home standards in the US. Early '90s, I would guess, they started, and they seeded.
Okay. And what was it when you were talking about that inflection curve, that hockey stick, the LEED rating? How did that idea who came up with that idea and how did it after years of doing this and kind of the flatlining, what was the aha moment to come up with that?
Yeah, and for you other executives and nonprofits, the power of a standard and a rating system, whether it's voluntary or third party certified, can be enormous. And there's probably, I don't know, 3 dozen rating systems modeled after LEED at this point. Recently, I learned about the US Resiliency Council had as a credible rating system. But when I uh, envisioned US Green Building Council was around 91, 92, I was doing that ASTM standard. I learned that England, the UK, had the world's first rating system for green building called BREEAM, the Building Resource Establishment Environmental Assessment Method. And it came out of the government, unlike LEED, which was private. There was a second one at the time out of University of British Columbia. Ray Cole did, a professor there. That one was too complicated and failed, but BREEAM is still very strong in the world, along with LEED and a dozen others that other countries created. But I learned about it, and I'm an engineer. Engineers hate waste. We love equations, formulas, simple. And I studied BREEAM. I spoke to those folks in the UK, and they gave me the idea. And then the US didn't really want to partner with the UK because we always like to go on our own. We're not always that great at it, as you can see today in the
Mhm.
world, unfortunately. I wanted a partner, but we learned from them and Canada and created our own committee. It was run by Rob Watson at NRDC, funded ultimately by DOE, and it defined in 5 categories green building and made it something complicated, simple, something you could put on a one pager and said it's energy efficient. It has renewable energy like solar. It's healthy in its indoor air quality. It has daylighting for health and productivity. It has minimal waste. It's transportation efficient. It's not in the middle of nowhere and you have to build roads and new grids. And it's water efficient, either captures ultimately the water or those shower heads, the faucets, they're low flow. Later stages, you have gray water, black water. But those are the core. And if you study all the rating systems in the world, those are the key categories and maybe some others. It's resilient today. It's super healthy. It's innovative and low embodied carbon, scope 3 energy. But we came up with a system. LEED was 100 points. You were either bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, or you weren't. We pegged the bronze at the top 25% of buildings in the US and pulled them from bronze towards platinum. Now it's to net zero years later. But it really took off. And then from that, there's a reference guide, LEED accredited professional exam, which it sounds like you're a LEED AP, Stephen. Thank you.
BD plus
But
C.
there you are, you're even later. I was one of the early APs before we had
Right.
those because there's like 9 leads now. There's interiors and homes and cities and
Yep.
neighborhoods. But it creates the industry. It got to you on that building at school. It got to you in your first internship. It got to you to study the exam. I'm probably here because of all that. You lit up when you heard my name.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for going over all that. I want to reference also for people that I imagine a lot of people listening have, because it is such a global brand now. Uh, this lead certified buildings. I had pulled up some stats that I could have started that episode with, but I'll share right now. And so it sounds like there's about 195,000 plus projects in 186 countries. Those projects cover about 29 billion square feet of LEED certified space, which is just incredible. What I think though, where it resonates, and I'm interested to your perspective on this. I mean, it relates in knots. I'll try to form this question out as I say it. It's so great when organizations, nonprofits can figure out an earned revenue model to supplement other ways that they might fundraise through corporate donors, individual donors, let's call it grants. With the USGBC and the World Green Building Council, you were able to make this earned revenue component, right, on at least two sides of it, which would be folks paying the learnings and the pain to become accredited, and then also fees so these buildings could be LEED certified. Can you talk us a little bit about that and kind of how
Yeah.
important was that to I think it kind of underpins the whole thing. So it's a little bit of a loaded question, but still such a novel approach, right? So many organizations, I think every organization, if they don't bring that skill set to the table as the founder, can bring in, board members that can think creatively about creating an earned revenue model, but is so critical to sustainability for nonprofit organizations. So can you talk to us a little bit about this business model?
Yeah, good question. It's always about dollars and cents. And so you got to get to it. If you just believe in the mission and not dollars and cents, and you don't equate your mission to dollars and cents, it's not going to work in this world. And now more than ever, they don't even want to talk about sustainability, but resiliency, risk, cash flow, price earning ratios for public companies, market cap, those are important terms. So if you aren't the finance person, take a course in it, bring partners, get to dollars and cents. Especially now, the nonprofits are being hammered on their grants from our federal government. States are pulling back because they're losing revenue. They're yanking contracts, and it's hitting our friends in climate change and other parts of the environment. So if you don't have multi cash flow streams, you're at risk. You can't just depend on donations. You can't just depend on member dues. You need multiple, like 5 to 10 revenue streams. And these models are known, and we did that quite well. We did start off with member dues. When I launched this, though, the founding members, the charter members ended up on the letterhead, and they gave more money plus the dues. And
Mhm.
generally it's big companies, but they put up 10 to 15,000 a pop. That's how I raised 125 grand in 3 months with nothing from the beginning. Then you have your conferences, there's conference fees, conference sponsors, people love that. Conference expo with booths, swag you sell somewhere there. Then you get continuing ed credits, so more people come and you get that, and that creates more revenue. Maybe you create the standard like LEED and have an accredited professional, and they buy your reference guide, they take your training course, another revenue. Training used to be over $1 million a year. The reference guide makes a ton. The exam is $300 or something. We have 300,000 lead accredited professionals. I don't know our passing rate. Let's say it's 50 or 50%, 30%. So double that, the ones who didn't pass. And then they took it
Mhm.
again. Maybe they're pissed at me, but I'm a businessman. That's more revenue.
Well, what are
When
your I would love for you to share the anecdote you shared with me, because some organizations can think about how it could apply to their nonprofits. But you had talked about a way that you helped increase the revenue sort of by chance, where you were transitioning from the exam that I was taking to the updated exams and accreditation system, and that there was a ton of demand to get to the deadline. Now I'm going to kind of give you the prompt, but what did you
Yeah.
do to? Yeah.
Well, you were lucky. You snuck in before it got harder, and you
Yes.
quickly
And
put
I
up
was
your
motivated,
money.
and that's kind of the prompt. I was motivated to do it because there was a deadline.
Yeah, and I'll answer this, Stephen, but you have to tell your story of the studying and how you did that, and you took the exam and what that taught you personally of your own power of focus. Yeah, it was interesting. Maybe I'll get in trouble for this, but I like trouble. And us founders, we're
There's a
troublemakers,
statute of
really.
limitations, I think, on this.
But I was in the office in DC years ago when I was on the board. I was on the executive committee and I was reviewing the financials with someone. And I saw this monster uptick in some month. I don't know what month you took it and what year. What year did you take it? Do you remember?
I would have been, I believe, J- June, June or July of 2009,
Okay.
I believe.
So let's say it was '09. The new, harder standard had come out for lead. The exam was being rewritten to up the level. Maybe too many people were passing. I don't know why, but they came up with a better, more comprehensive exam. And people knew that that exams in about 2 months was going to roll out. And the old, earlier version was being sunsetted. And I think they used it for advertising. Hey, get in there, take the old exam before the new one. So when I was looking at the financials, there's a monster uptick in that month of the revenue, like hundreds of thousands of dollars out of scale with the other months. And I said
Mhm.
to the staff, what is that? Well, we've announced there's a new exam coming and we've now closed that old exam, but the new one won't go up for another month. So I said to him, put the old one back up and let them know the new one's delayed a month. And that made like I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the 1 month. They already did well, but by seeing that no business person closes the old one that the fish are jumping in the boat and has a month of delay till the new one. That's like you need to feed the village. The fish are all coming in the net and you pull in the net, when they're still doing that and you have spare nets. No fisherman does it.
I no, I love it. It's super smart. It's it has its own sort of enhancement on it, but just the concept of the LTOs and business limited time offers, what is it that you can do to get more interest quicker before some sort of deadline that can surge that? So you guys had that and then you just extended it, which was super
Now
cool.
I feel guilty like I shouldn't have said that, but
No, I
and you see
disagree. I disagree completely. All you extended it and allowed more people to be able to become lead APs, and also you generated more revenue for this organization. That's an incredible mission.
well, and that's just guilt, but the guy who said extend it and who was speaking is a businessman, an entrepreneur who's
Uh-huh.
starting a nonprofit that he knows nothing about nonprofits. But that's what made us successful. We were a bunch of business people. We had nonprofits on the board, but our model was Google, which probably wasn't around then. But when I went to early meetings at Google, said, how'd you grow so fast? I said, we're scrappy. We do version 1.0. We know it isn't perfect. It's out in the market. It breaks. It has problems. We do 1.1. We do 2.0. We
Mhm.
sunset it. Then we do the next product. And we were scrappy in those days, very fast, very bold. We didn't have anything, but we had passion, ideas. People didn't know who we were, like the AIA or Ashray, the standard group. They're like, who are these guys? They don't have anything. That's our field. We own that portion, that vertical of the industry. And we're like, yes, that's why we're inviting you to our table, but we're a horizontal and we're welcoming you. And you can join us or not, but we're moving. We're going to go
Yep.
fast. And if they didn't join us, there's a monster professional society I won't name, but they're like, dude, we have that covered. We don't need you. Fine. That was the national one. So I got the local one where in my city, San Francisco, to join one of their chapters and they came in, not the national. And then I got kind of it wasn't their competitor, but it's another part of the building that they didn't represent. We got them and then we got the landscapers and circled them. And then they had to come in when you had strength. When you don't have strength, you have creativity or In Yiddish, they say sechel, chutzpah and sechel. Those will do it. Wisdom and guts.
My grandmother would love this right now. I mean, are you a member of the tribe?
Yes, yes.
Hey, we didn't put that together. Yes, I'm Jewish as well. So even
Ah,
there we go. I could have put it together a long time ago. But yeah, she would always throw out awesome Yiddish sayings. So thank you
sh
for that.
and what she would be doing is the 3rd one, I'll stop. She'd be cavelling, like
Yes. Yes.
grandmothers cavell. They're like, see their kids, they're nachum, and when you say they do good things like you, Stephen, it warms their heart, and they hug you to death.
Tzedakah, I guess. Um,
Exactly.
I wanna as you were talking about that experience of trying to grow through when there could be adversity or people don't wanna be a part of it or pushing you out or why do we need to do that and the naysayers. Some of the best advice I got when I was starting Charity Charge was the best leaders, the best entrepreneurs are always acting like and conveying that the train has already pulled out of the station. And if, you're inviting people on, but if you're not getting on the train, we're going. We're going, we're going. And that is kind of what I heard in there. But talk a
Yeah,
little bit about that because I do think and maybe unpack, I'm just curious like from your perspective, the psychology of it. That is where I, out of the gates got held up, right? It's what's in your head, right? Put the other skill sets and the things aside, but so many times we hold ourselves back, right? When there's a naysayer in life, in anything,
yeah,
certainly
yeah,
for people that are starting an organization. And so much so, I mean, a lot of what sort of I would say is the spirit of this podcast and overall, like the overarching vision and kind of mission and point of Charity Charge is we believe that nonprofits have so much to learn from one another and can help one another. But
yeah,
there's would be so many people that want to start an organization in their community and someone else is going to say, well, why do you do that? Because we already have that. Or they try to put it out and someone else says, those are our donors. You shouldn't be talking to them. They support us. You can't ask them for donations.
yeah,
So, ha- I mean, you say it now, right? And I believe it. And you did it because, like, the facts speak for itself of how successful USGBC became, World Green Building Council, this global reach. But were there moments when you were discouraged, or
oh
did you
my
just
god.
have this
No,
fortitude?
no,
It takes
hundreds,
it takes like calluses. Yeah.
hundreds, and this is spot on because if you're the founder, you're the executive director, you're thinking of doing the group and you're scared, and you talk to your family or friends or business advisor, some of them fire hose you, and they kill your flame. They fire hose your flame, and these things are built on flame. Now we're trying to make that flame renewable and not have carbon. But that founder, CEO, entrepreneur flame of any startup is getting hammered sometimes, whether it's a venture capital who says, come back when you got 10 million of revenue. Well, I don't even have 100 grand. Screw you. My dad gave me so many tools to build all these things and even to talk like this. He's a public speaker, he's a management consultant, he's a businessman. And I'm sitting here thinking of him. This is his paperweight. His name was Ira. Do not confuse effort with results. And he didn't want me to spend in a nonprofit a lot of effort and have no results. He didn't want me to have great effort and make no money. He didn't want me to be broke. We grew up in Brentwood in LA. He had a small airplane, brought me to the country club. He wanted me to be a management consultant, because they made great bucks, did good work and strategy. But when I quit real estate development, which had the money, I told him I'm going to start a nonprofit. And I'm going to call it the US Green Building Council. He said, tell me about it. I said, well, we're going to create a standard for green building. England did it. Da, da, da. And he said, well, how are you going to start? I said, I'll put in a little money I made from development. He said, yeah, but when that's out, don't come home when you're starving. And he gave me all the tools to succeed, but he said that. And that hurt because I idolized him. But it's okay. He also gave me the tools so that I wasn't ever starving. And we made this about money. And I made money, plenty of money. But you'll get fire hosed all along the way. That's fine. But believe in your passion, believe in your ingenuity. Gather those others who speak or play an instrument. You're creating a symphony. Who's a violin? Where's the trumpet? Who hits the timpani? I don't care how smart you are. You cannot Even if you can play all those instruments, if you're playing the trumpet, you can't play the flute at the same time. So fill out your deck and get smart. Meet with those people who fire hose you because you need to answer their questions. Where's the money in green building? Where's the risk? Why should I do it? It's too expensive. It's too slow. It's too risky. It's not proven. No one's done it. That product didn't work. You didn't. I've heard everything. And hundreds of times I wanted to quit, but I found someone to talk to. I got someone who said yes somewhere. I went to 300 no's before I get my first yes, and I started to believe that a no is just someone I didn't beat up on their head enough to convert them to a yes. That's what you need. But if it's a good idea, even if it's ahead of its time like us, you stay it. You find your tribe. You find the economic lingo. You have to tie into it. Green buildings can make more money on revenue. Green buildings can lease up faster. Green buildings have lower energy, water, and waste and expenses. Green buildings are worth more because it's LEED, platinum, net zero. So it has a better capitalization rate. Green buildings have less risks for tenants complaining about air quality, mechanical, hot and cold. Find them. We did that. We got universities to write economic studies on it. We work with Harvard on an indoor air quality study. You know the way, but find the methods and don't quit. When you're broke and you're asking for donors forever, figure out a way to sell something and make some revenue. And how do you create the train's left? You're not on it. You get bright, smart, passionate people. You go multi-industry. You get the one spark plug in the big company. And even if they're young and the rest of the company doesn't care, doesn't matter. You get the 35-year-old who thinks it's cool, wants legacy. We have here today Stephen, who saw our sign. He's still got this passion. He was lost. His dad passed away at 53. He's starting to ask about life. You were right, a smart, right entrepreneur. You didn't know it yet. I would have found you and you would have helped build this. And you're smarter than me. I'm now old enough to shut up and let you do it because you'll find the way. And that's part of the founders have to hear it. Get out
Well,
of the
that
way.
I want to go more on that. I want to tell you that the more and more that we talk, the more I can resonate with you. And I want to share, uh, something that I maybe I've told to my wife, but I've told to very, very few people. She might be the only person. No, my mom would know too. When my father passed away, my grandfather really took over. And I always had a great relationship with him. And when I say took over, like he really shifted from just being my grandfather to being this father figure. And he supported me because my father passed away rather, sophomore year of college. So, he paid for my junior and senior year of college and living expenses and did so many things beyond just that. But it's like, wow, if I didn't have that safety net, I'm so grateful for him. And he was such a great guy, taking me to the ball game or the zoo. I mean, doing all of everything everyone could wish they had, or you wish other people would have in a grandfather figure. But he was born basically at the start of the Great Depression. The guy lived through World War II.
Yeah.
Okay, worked his butt off as an attorney. Was the Maryland State Bar president, was on National Legal Services Corporation, ran that. I mean, a really big figurehead in the legal community. And that's how he knew how to make a living and kind of what going to work looked like.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he had many clients over the years that were business owners that were failed businesses. So he had, when I wanted to start Charity Charge and I just had the idea for it, he tried to talk me out of it so many different times. And the
Yeah.
time that hurt the most, and I even cried. I mean, I'll just say it. He basically told me, I mean, I was like 29. And he said, if you don't have a good job by the time you're 30, you're unemployable. No one will ever hire you. He was trying to get me to either quit this, go work for some sort of company, or go back to business school or law school. And it really hurt. It really, really hurt me. And I say this
Yeah.
because the people that love you the most, they want to protect you.
Yeah.
I know that what he was doing, I can look back on it now, was coming from, in his mind, a place of he was trying to protect me, but it was not allowing me to become the highest and allowing me to fulfill my vision and my destiny.
Yeah.
And it's really important that I'm sure so many great ideas are killed because people can get that kind of feedback from those that do love them the most. And it's such an interesting dynamic, you know?
Yeah.
And now that I have my son, I'm like, I want him to fail, you know? I want him to learn through those experiences. And I want him just to get out there. I mean, he's right now, it's incredible what he's doing, all of his neck strength and everything. And we do like the tummy time and all of that. And he's there in like Sphinx pose and he's looking at, because they like the high contrast cars and all. And my wife's and he's holding himself up and we're like, well, my wife's like, should we get him? And I'm like, no, like he'll be fine. Just because we don't know when he's exhausted himself. And I want him to just go for it and build the next show. We leave him as like cute as can be. He's there. And then he's struggling a little bit and he's like lifted up, back up his head. And then it's goes down. And then he finally just plops to his side. We had him on a cushion where he was like,
Yeah.
padded, like perfect. I was like, that's exactly what I want for my son. Get out there into the world,
Yeah.
up your knees, you'll pick yourself back up and go out there and do your thing.
So many good items here. Your grandfather was a role figure, role model. He stepped in for your dad. Kudos for him. He gave you security. He didn't support you for charity charge in the beginning, but like my dad, he
Well,
gave you
here's the
tools.
I want to say this to out of full because this is with respect, but it's telling the story of just what happened. It probably took me from when that happened another 18 months. I mean, we could go for 3 hours on like what all that journey was to doing this, but I finally launched it and he became our biggest supporter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the cards were down and out and we were struggling at one point, we bootstrapped. I raised no money. I had no outside capital, but I had to get a bridge financially to get us over the hump at one point, and he did it,
There you go.
9,
But
10 years
he
ago.
did what you're doing with your son and what I do with my daughter. They give you, they teach you how to learn. They teach you ethics and values to do something bigger than self. They give you security and allow you to feel safe in the world. This is the most important thing of a parent is to help their kids feel safe, help the kids find their own strengths. Even if he didn't support you, you had a voice that dreamed this up. You had ingenuity. And my dad, was a brilliant management consultant, a brilliant businessman, the most organized guy in the world and capable and driven and self-made and bootstrapped and chutzpah up the wazoo. I mean, the guy would fly his little plane from LA to New York and give a keynote and charge him for the flight fare of commercial, but he flew himself. He had to. And of course, he had to be president of the pilot society and the boat society. That chutzpah, that strength they give you and the confidence and security to believe in yourself. That's what made this. And then when you needed help, he was there. And I
Well, as I
didn't
say
give
it,
him enough tribute for the skills that I got.
yeah,
Not that they fire hose you because they want you to have a pot to piss in.
yeah. Well, as I say it now, and I'm trying to sort of relive things and think about how do you interpret as you get older the lessons and things that happened in the past. It was such a great gift that because I was such a driven person and stubborn and persistent and all of those things that in many ways it was a blessing because as much as it hurt, my resolve was that much stronger because I was hell bent on
Yeah.
making this work, you know?
Yeah. I'll
And
show you. I'll show you.
yeah,
I can do
I
this.
the final 2 months before we launched, I mean, I'd never worked this many hours in a week and days and as it went on, and I just developed this saying that I would say to myself over and over again, which is, "How do you stop someone that won't quit? You can't." It was
You
just
get
there was
get
no
out of the
quit.
way. You get out of the
Yeah.
way.
There
Let
was,
them
like,
fly.
no way that I was not accomplishing this goal. It was not
I
possible.
I was
And
the
that
same.
resolve I wanna come back to a story that you that I had told you, but you'd asked when you were talking about the lead.
Yeah.
That was reinforced because I was gonna take the lead this was, June or July of 2009. and I had waited to study, and I didn't have an architecture background or engineering background, but the date was looming, this cutoff date that we talked about. I had 1 week. I locked myself in a room at my mother's house at the time, and all I did was study 14, 15 hours a day. And I would eat, I would go out for a run. That was the only shower, of course, whatever. Get a handful of hours of sleep. And
Wow.
the first I remember I jumped in, and the first day I was just, like, so overwhelmed. I mean, the manual's like that, and I was making flashcards and all this stuff. And then day 2, I had, like, a little bit of confidence, but by day 3, I developed this mindset that I just would not fail. I just created this belief system. It
How
sort of
did you
just
do
came out.
that? How did you cross over from fear to confidence?
Uh, Probably at the time, I was I was reading a book, or I'd really gotten into Tony Robbins,
Yeah,
if you know him,
sure.
and that was probably the first time that I realized how important our belief system is, and that can become the guiding thing for your success. And
Yeah,
it can either be, a downward spiral or set you free to go accomplish anything.
yeah. That's phenomenal. I had the same when I was founding the US Green Building Council, and we were having I think it was like October of 92. We launched April of 93, but in that gap, we had nothing. And I was dialing for dollars, mailing packages, faxing. And I went 13 weeks in San Francisco at a friend's office. He gave me an office for free in the waterfront, Levi Strauss Plaza. I worked 13 weeks every day. I don't even think I showered. I definitely drank coffee. That's all I remember. And I drank so much coffee one day, and I was talking to someone to pitch them, and I couldn't speak. Like the caffeine hit me so hard, I just couldn't talk. And that's the only break I took when I couldn't talk anymore. But I was determined. That was when, if they told me to leave them alone, stop bugging them, that was success, or they joined me. But that's what it takes sometimes. And you
I think
did
that's
it.
what it
You
always
did it.
takes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
But
don't
it
the
took
more
your
and more
grandpa too. What was his name?
Herb,
Herb. It took Herb and my dad Ira to nurture us, to teach us their way, to love you. I think it's invention is based in love. Love for what you're inventing, but love of self to have the confidence to want to make something. And our things to do something good. And where does that come from? It's a deeper family, not just DNA. It's definitely your soul. My soul wanted more than just to make a buck and buy crap I didn't need. I wanted to do something I was proud of. And the one thing I'll tell you, my dad passed 6 years ago, but oh, here's a crazy thing. Yeah, his next week it'll be 6 years. But I was kind of pissed. He told me,
feel ya.
don't come home when I was starving. So I didn't tell him about our massive growth after leave. And maybe, I don't know how many years later, 5 or 10 years later, this is Rick Fedrizzi, our CEO. He made Greenville Conference huge. And I invited mom and dad. I bought them a ticket to Phoenix. And we had 25,000 green building people there. We rented the entire convention center. And we're sitting at the keynote, and it's Al
I was
Gore.
there. Sorry,
You were
no,
there.
I was at a different one. I was in Phoenix. No, sorry, I was there in, '09. So, apologies, I took
I
away your
don't
thunder.
know. Maybe that was it. I don't know if was it Gore or the keynote. I don't remember. Maybe I got it wrong because we've had green belts for
I know the
25
Kohler
years.
CEO gave some sort of big speech.
No, but they always had a luminary. My favorite was Desmond Tutu. He was incredible. But my dad's watching the keynote, my mom, I'm smiling. He turns to me, elbows me, and says, son, you said you wanted to change the world, and you did. And I'm proud of you. So I never forgot that.
That's awesome. Isn't it crazy how that can mean everything? It's really
It
special.
is. It is. And in a way, he's passed, but he's in me.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to earn things in his currency, not mine, maybe to
Mhm.
get more love, but he passed. So it becomes part of you. It's in your head. When I'm giving a keynote, you're not loud enough. You're not looking at the audience. You're going into too much detail. Stay macro. Get the hook. I could hear him.
We always carry them with us. Yeah, that's part of the human condition, I think
Yeah.
that they
So
live
if
on through us.
If you're a parent or grandparent, you're hearing some case studies here. Spend more time with those kids. Tell them you love them. Teach them basic skills, whatever it is. But more than that, it's that core foundation of safety, know, love that isn't conditional. And even when they screw up, you go hug them. And somehow out of that love, I got it for Earth. I don't know how, but I grew up as a backpacker at Yosemite in the hills of LA where the Getty is now. And I fell in love. I'm an engineer who likes systems, but the trees, the water that cleans the waste, and the tree that falls and composts the next tree. And you go to the beautiful campsite. Hopefully, there's no waste there. If you see trash, it drives you nuts. And I learned the laws of nature and circularity, and that there is no waste, and that the creation was almost perfect, except for the humans. We went too far. We used technology, which evolved incredibly, but we didn't want to see the externalities of the technology, the climate change, the oceans rising and heating up, the melting glaciers, the soil turning to dirt. We didn't want to see it. We thought all that was free. Forget it. I threw it away. It's gone. I don't know what it is. I think it's our survival wiring that I'm trying to invent new survival wiring so we actually survive. But somewhere, maybe it's Darwinian, is ego and greed. That if I don't have more, they won't pick me, or I'll live forever in perpetuity if I'm the richest, or my building's the tallest, or my boat is the biggest, instead of I'll leave the least footprint, or I'll plant those seeds for regeneration and restoration. David Brower is my mentor. He founded Earth Island Institute, League of Conservation Voters. He was the first executive director of Sierra Club. He was bigger, and he taught us. He would sign his letters, David Brower for the earth. And where's this bigger ethic that healing Earth, sustaining it for Henry? That's wealth. We had the wrong equation for wealth. And money's fun. I like it. I like first class and nice hotels, but the real wealth is sustaining the lungs of Earth and the reservoirs of the future and aquifers that are drying up. And everything you make to make your billion creates a negative footprint. That's wealth. We just got it wrong. And now we're trying to turn it. And you're getting to play in this. And so if you have an idea or an invention, redouble your efforts. Now more than ever, as our government's got its head in the sand, and thinks the wealth is the billions from crypto. Screw that. It's going to blow up. Wealth is the air and the water, because when you don't have them, guess what? You're dead.
I love everything you said, and it makes me think back. There was a gentleman in Maryland, Peter Garver, who was a developer, but in the lead space. And he would start every meeting with the ancient proverb of we didn't inherit the earth from our ancestors, but we borrowed it. We're borrowing it from our children.
Yeah.
You know, and
Or the
that's
seventh generation principle. That's what that is of the indigenous.
yeah.
They understood it. You could have a council meeting whether you should tear down the big tree, but somehow with the industrialization and invention of consumerism and marketing, we became consumers, not humans. Or to be human wasn't to be humane. And I call it the
Mm,
E revolution. Put the E at the end of the word human. What happened to the humanes?
wow, that's a good one. Coming full circle as you talk about the full circle of everything. I want to thank you so much for inspiring me, helping become what is now Charity Charge and my journey through life. And thank you so much for being on this episode. It's really, really a great one. And usually we talk a lot about specifically the organization and what they're doing and all that, but this was really impactful. And I hope will be inspiring, but also provide a lot of resilience and fortitude that entrepreneurs and founders need so desperately.
Thank you so much, Stephen. You inspired me. You
Sweet.
give me hope, and I call hope. I look for agents of hope who accelerate hope, and hope stands for health on planet Earth. That's what we need. And we need to come together. We need to support each other. We need all these listeners to not quit. get up that mountain. We need to help you, and I'm here to help you. We need to
Thank you.
celebrate you.
I think of hope. You've got such great, by the way, I need to acknowledge all your, I don't call it phrases. I always thought of the hope of helping other people everywhere
That's
was
it.
mine. Yeah.
And those people are members of our tribe. It doesn't matter
Yes.
your culture, your race, your country, your religion. We're members of the same tribe. To me, the temple, our home, is earth. And that's the synagogue, the cathedral. And outside my front door is just brothers and sisters. That's what we need.
Yep. 100%. I really appreciate it, David. This has been an awesome episode. And to close out, I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode of the Charity Charge Show with David Gottfried, who is the founder of the US Green Building Council, World Green Building Council. Thank you.